Maher.
Yes.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for what am I saying? Thanks for being here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for making the trip to Club Random. I appreciate it.
Club Random.
Great to have you here. Yes, where I do my podcast from. This
is a first. I don't believe I've ever actually had a drink on TCM. So thank you. I mean, I've had a drink in life.
This is the first time I've done a show here and not had a joint. So we're even.
Well, we'll try to get through this quickly.
No, I could talk about Reds all day.
Well, there it is. So that's the movie you're here to talk about, part of the New Republic's list of the 100 most significant political films of all time. I think it's noteworthy that it's not the 100 best necessarily, but the 100 most significant. I think this would be on the list either way.
And it's also depending on how you define politics.
That's right.
You know, a lot of things can be seen as political that aren't specifically political.
Well, I Do the Right Things in the top 10.
Right.
That's not
right.
That's not about politics.
But everything is politics. I've based the show for 30 years on that.
Thank goodness for you. Everything is politics. Yeah. So Reds comes in at number 41. This is Warren Beatty in 1981, 3 years after Making Heaven Can Wait. But he directs, writes, produces, and stars.
Reds is a movie about the guy who, yes, became a hero to the Soviet Union, but you have to place this. This is before we knew communism was bad.
That's right. That's right.
The Russian Revolution, kids, if you didn't go to history class, happened in 1917. But before that, there was a labor movement in America because we did not really have effective unions. Unions were nascent at that time. So you could work children, you could work people 7 days a week. There were no limits on hours. It was horrible. So Warren Beatty is a journalist. He plays Jack Reed, a real person in history. And in the beginning, that is his focus, is the American labor movement. I love his first line I think it's his first line there's this liberal club in Portland, and they're all talking about this is about when America was debating whether to enter World War I, which was raging in Europe. And they're talking about the war, and Mr. Reed, what do you think? And he just stands up, takes a Warren Beatty pause. What do you think this war is about?
Profits.
And just sits down.
Sits back down.
And it's brilliant because you know exactly what the movie's about. From one word in, I don't know if it's the opening scene, but very near the beginning. I think it's his first line.
It's his first scene. That's right.
Okay.
It's our introduction.
So it makes sense that someone who was involved in the American labor movement would then be interested when the big labor movement, communism, was happening in Europe. It was the same thing, a workers' movement. We didn't know until much later how evil it became and how communism does not work. I hope the audience agrees with that. Some of the kids today think it's worth another try, but that's because they didn't study it. But at the time, that's where he was.
And the real John Reed, interchangeably called Jack Reed, himself became disillusioned with the early days of the Soviet Union.
And that's what happens. He goes over to the Soviet Union in the second half of them. By the way, another great thing about Reds, one of the last movies that had both an intermission, which, I mean, that is really from another era.
That's from another era. That's from the TCM era.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, right before the first half ends, before the intermission, he's got an absolute Gone with the Wind silhouette shot with his leading lady, which you don't see in movies anymore, and it's just gorgeous. And that is one thing I love about Reds. He never forgets the romance. It's a love story that's woven into the history, and it's a brilliant, it's very hard to do. Make a movie about something substantial, but also never lose the love story to keep the audience.
And Nicholson.
Did he not get a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for that? Because
Nicholson got nominated, didn't win.
He should have.
Of course.
I mean, he's only has 4 or 5 scenes, but he just kills it.
Yeah, the only Oscar win for any of the actors, Maureen Stapleton, playing Emma Goldman. She won Best Supporting Actress. Warren was nominated.
Well, he won Best Director.
He won Best Director as well, and he got like 4 nominations. But and Nicholson was nominated, and Diane Keaton was nominated. So let's watch the movie. We'll come back. We'll talk about it in a little over 3 hours. Here it is.
No intermission?
No. Yeah, there's a little intermission. Yeah. You have time to step out.
You don't have to show the intermission anymore.
Yeah, but we do. We give you the experience as the director intended.
Okay.
The director is Warren Beatty. Here it is from 1981. Reds. I'm back with Bill Maher talking significant political movies. To the New Republic says this is number 41, the 41st most significant political film.
I think it's the best.
Yeah,
I mean, I just...
And you said it in the beginning, like this is a reminder to people that, and I think it's relevant too in the late 40s when we got the Red Scare for all these people who had gone to Communist Party meetings, and some of them who were communists, American communists, in the 1930s. You pointed out before the film that this is when Reds takes place right before the Russian Revolution and during the Russian Revolution, that communism was attractive to many people in the American labor movement.
There was great hope that something that hadn't really been tried and that elevated the people above the status of just serfs was something to be fought for.
Right, above the profits, as we learned, as Warren Beatty says. And I think it's still relevant during the Red Scare in the 1940s, because in the 1930s, when many people were joining the Communist Party, like, capitalism had failed. Right? I mean, our way of life had literally broken.
Yes.
And the awareness of Stalin's crimes and how terrible, we didn't have television cameras there. It was then slowly, especially after the war, and even leading up to World War II, information was coming out of Russia, and we got a sense of what communism in practice looks like.
I always saw the movie also as a way of saying that institutions that don't conform to human nature don't work. Human nature is selfish. And the two institutions, I think, that are relevant to Warren Beatty, that certainly at the time, I think, that he thought didn't work, were communism and marriage.
Yeah.
But love endures.
Love endures.
But love endures, as we see in that great train scene.
It's staged in such a nice way, too, because she's looking down the train. She's going from compartment to compartment. All the Soviet bigwigs who, survived this attack on the train get off. She expects him to be with them, but he's, of course, separate. He's disillusioned. He's not getting off the train with Jerzy Kosinski. And then she's given up, right? Thinks maybe he's dead in the stretcher. There's a dead body they're carrying off, but he's behind her, right? So he doesn't emerge from the train. He's already off. And then that look, it's just the best. He said they shot 30 of those, something like that, 15, 20, 30, relying on his best memory. He goes, I think we used the first one. That one in the movie is the first one.
It looks real. It doesn't look like he said to the extra, okay, so you bump her here. It looks like she's really making her way through a bunch of extras who really don't want to be there.
headed for the craft services truck.
Exactly.
Right.
They want to get out.
There's coffee over there? Great.
Yeah,
that's where they're. So I mean, not knowing you and having watched you and admired your work for, what have we got, 30 years, counting the other
30
show?
years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't expect you to be such a sucker for the romance.
Oh, I am. I almost have never cried in real life since I got out of childhood. But any movie that is even halfway good at it can make me do that.
I cry, Bill, like when Bart is kind to Lisa on The Simpsons. Like, it does not take much to get me to cry on something on television or in a movie.
That's a ridiculous extreme example, but I take your point.
He's looking out for his little sister, Bill, for crying out loud.
I got to go back to my day job.
Bill Maher, thank you. This was really special. Thank you for doing this.
It's an honor to be on it.
Keep up the good work.
I will. You too. Thank you.
Thanks for having us at Club Random. Bill's done for the night, but of course the movies continue on TCM, and as always, they are uncut and commercial free.